But first of all, joining us is Florida Senator Marco Rubio. Senator Rubio, it's a great pleasure. Thank you for coming back on the show. Just one little thing. There's still, I don't want to dwell on this because there are other fish to fry, but the White House today in the news conference in the press room, they're still hacking away at this guy, Hur. They're still hacking away at Hur, who all the leading Democrats praised when they first put him in as a special counsel. Now, you know, as you know, and I know, we've always talked about this, vice presidents and senators do not have the authority to remove classified documents. And he did. And that's in the Hur report, even though they're all beaten up on it. And I just thought I'd get your sort of weekend after take.
Yeah, well, you've already pointed to in your intro about the double standard of where Trump was charged and this, you know, and Biden wasn't. But there's other double standards here. For example, apparently Hur is the only special prosecutor you're allowed to viciously attack and call names. If you do it to Jack Smith, you're undermining the system, you're a threat to his family, but you can do it to Hur. And then the other thing, and I saw like a clip from the White House press conference, they're saying that he's not a doctor. They've fundamentally misunderstand that. Here's very simple. What he found was all the elements of a crime have been met. Okay, but we have decided not to charge him because we believe he's suffering from age-related dementia, and we don't think a jury will convict him because of that. He'll be sympathetic, especially 4 years from now, because of these challenges. That's why they chose not to charge him. So one of two things are true either. Either he has age-related dementia and therefore shouldn't be charged, or he doesn't, according to what the White House says, and therefore should be charged. In essence, if he had a perfect memory, you don't need a doctor. They're relying on their interviews, and their argument is, we put this before a jury, the jury's not going to convict this guy. So if he, in fact, is not suffering from dementia, then Hur should have charged him. Either way, he either has dementia or he should have been charged with a crime. Those were the only two outcomes, and Hur decided not to charge him because of the dementia and memory issues. And you don't need a doctor. That's not a medical assessment. That is an assessment of what would happen in front of a jury.
Actually, right. You know, I thought it's a good legal point. The fact is, it is illegal under the Presidential Records Act for vice presidents and or senators to take classified documents off campus. You know, that stuff's got to go in the archives. And you want to write a book and talk to your ghostwriter, you can do it in a SCIF in the National Archives. I mean, I don't understand that. The other thing, Senator Rubio, I just want to ask you, do you think, with respect to the classified documents, which we know were in Biden's possession as early as 2017 when he told his ghostwriter, was that stuff about the Chinese energy company? Was that stuff about the Ukraine influence peddling? You see where I'm going on this? Will you all in the Senate and anybody in the House have a chance to take a look at what those classified documents really were? It was a part of Jamie Comer's investigations. What you think, Senator Rubio?
Yeah, so we had a chance in the leadership of the intelligence committees to review all of the disclosure cases that we've seen out there, and I did not personally see anything linked to that. That's about as far as I can go in describing it. Suffice it to say that in the indictment, or I'm sorry, in the non-indictment report, it outlines the kinds of documents, notes about Afghanistan. Look, the guy was keeping stuff because he wanted to write a book and he wanted to make sure that it was recorded for posterity. That's why he did it. And they made the decision not to charge him. Unlike Trump, where even though there's no allegation that he shared it with any foreign power or that anything's been disclosed, and in fact it was in a facility that was guarded by Secret Service agents and had full-time security, not some garage thrown in a box. I don't know if you saw those photos of the Biden garage. But in that case, they're not alleging what's the crime, what's the harm that's been done to the injury to the nation. I'll tell you what has injured the nation is the fact they charged the president and they've ripped the nation apart and they've created this new normal where you're going to have a lot of pressure on future Republicans to go after Democrats using special prosecutors in the legal system to conduct lawfare like we're seeing now. So they opened a Pandora's box there.
Senator Rubio, Donald Trump over the weekend in South Carolina kind of rang another warning bell about NATO countries that don't pay up their fair share. We have a full screen of this. France didn't pay up its 2%. Germany didn't pay up its 2%. Italy, Canada, in other words, these are G7 countries, so-called wealthy countries, did not pay up. I mean, I think we've heard Trump say this before. He may have made some progress in his first term, but to me, what he said over the weekend in South Carolina, basically, he's just ringing the warning bell again. What do you think?
Well, first of all, Trump was already president. And while Trump was president, we didn't destroy NATO. We had troops deployed there. I remember being in Poland and meeting with American troops that were there. So we didn't see any attack on NATO. What Donald Trump has done is basically what virtually every president in American history, in the history of NATO, has done, and that is complain that our allies don't do more. Trump simply expresses it differently than the other ones did. He expresses it in a story that he told. He used the story as a way to sort of describe his position on it, which is, if you're not going to pay more. He was describing like a negotiating tactic of some sort, but it was not prospective. He did not say, if they don't pay up, I'm going to tell. He was describing the story of something that he claims has happened in the past. I wouldn't have talked that way because I don't talk that way. But Donald Trump doesn't talk like a U.S. senator. He doesn't talk like people that have served here or are members of some foreign think tank. On the other hand, here's what we do know, and that is that Joe Biden is using all kinds of profanity and temper tantrums and leaking it to the press to go after Netanyahu. What we do know is that even as the Israelis and Israel is fighting for its very existence, you have an administration that's going out there and openly saying that they've gone over the top, that he hates Netanyahu, that we don't like the way you're conducting your operation. He's actively, in a time of war, undermining an ally, undermining a country, and he's doing it to appease the radical anti-Semitic element of his base that exists.
So, Senator, that's a key point. Let's just stay with that. That started, well, I don't know if it started. The night before the catastrophic news conference, apparently Biden swore at Netanyahu privately in front of a bunch of Democrats. The reports today are that Biden continues to swear at Netanyahu. I thought Netanyahu and Israel were our allies. Netanyahu wants to clean up now in the south of Gaza and finish the job off, and Biden is blocking him, and they're talking about some crazy two-state solution. I don't get any of this, Senator Rubio. I mean, I thought Israel was our biggest ally, the only democracy in the Middle East. What in the world are the Bidens doing?
They went to him and said that he's going to lose a bunch of pro-Palestinian voters in places like Michigan. They sent emissaries from the White House to go meet with anti-Semites, to go meet with people that are supporters of Hamas and Hezbollah, because these people are threatening. I guarantee you they've gone to the White House and said, political people have said, we're in trouble here. We have an element of our base that's really angry at us and is not going to vote for us. And so we need to put stuff out there to show that we're not 100% on Israel's side. And so you start seeing the leaks that he hung up on Netanyahu, that he swore at him. You see this memo last week that comes out from the State Department about how we're not going to give aid to countries that target civilians, which Israel's not targeting civilians. Unfortunately, in war, civilians are caught in the way. In this case, because Hamas could end this conflict tomorrow. They should surrender. But they'd rather have every civilian die in Gaza than surrender. So he has a press conference that says how they've gone over the top. All of this is designed to appease that radical anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Iran element in his own party, because he's afraid of losing their support and their votes. And some of those elements, by the way, find themselves in the bureaucracy of this country. I don't know if you saw a picture about a couple months ago, a bunch of White House staffers or executive branch staffers standing out in front of the White House in protest, demanding ceasefire, obviously with their faces covered. A bunch of cowards in the State Department signing a letter condemning the administration's position on Israel. Of course, none of them would put their name on it. Some of these people might be ambassadors or future ambassadors. We don't know who they are because they're in hiding, because they're cowards. But that's embedded in our government right now. And that's who he's trying to appease.
It's incredible. By the way, there may be some Iranian cutouts in the government. One guy, the guy Malley, we still don't know why he lost his security clearance, and there may be others as well, so spot on that. Senator Rubio, last one I just want to mention. No, actually, I got two more. Quick. Ukraine money, $60 billion. Senator Rand Paul was on this show, I think, Friday or Thursday. He wants a minimum inspector general. He wants some accountability. He'd like an off-ramp negotiations. What do you think about the $60 billion and that whole package?
Well, first of all, $20 billion of the $60 billion is to buy back the weapons for ourselves that we gave them, right? So we gave them weapons. Now we don't have them. We need to go out and buy them to replace them for ourselves. So that's 20 of the 60. I think it could be fixed, but ultimately I would say that I want Ukraine to have the strongest possible hand in a future negotiation with Putin. But that's what's going to happen in this conflict. And the stronger Ukraine is, the better the terms are going to be at the end of this conflict when that day comes. And so I don't think we have a national interest. I don't think it's unlimited and forever, but I also don't think it's zero, as I've described. My problem is we are here, we met through Super Bowl weekend, all of it is fine with me. What I wonder is what people back home are saying to me, and that is, you guys will stay up there for days at a time, cancel trips, whatever it is you're going to do to help other countries with their invasion, but you never do that for us. We have an invasion going on right now. And you won't give that priority. And so I think Americans are tired of always being told they're second. second to another country, second to an interest group, second to something, the global economy, whatever it might be. They're tired of it. And I think that's being exposed here, how out of touch politics has become, including people in both parties, with what the priorities are of everyday working Americans.
Last 40 seconds, Senator Rubio. President Xi says it's time to integrate Taiwan into the rest of China. I know you've thought and spoken a lot about this. Here we go. This isn't the kind of integration that I look forward to.
Well, he's talking about a takeover, and that's been their plan. That's part of his legacy. He views that as part of his legacy. I continue to believe that we won't finish this decade without probably seeing some sort of real conflict over that potentially, unless we can do things to deter it and buy ourselves some time. Maybe the next Chinese leader will have the same ambitions. But right now, we've got to make it as hard as possible for them to achieve that, and so that calculus changes. But Xi's never made any mystery about it. I mean, he intends to move on this one way or the other before the end of this decade.